Good morning, everyone. Last week I started out with the story of my journey. A lot of pain in my childhood and upbringing, and my own personal path to wellness and healing. Well, this morning I want to start out with sharing a bit about my mom's journey, because it's just so closely related to everything that we're talking about and my journey too. So before I was born, my mom was diagnosed with an autoimmune condition, a hypothyroid disorder. And the doctors just suggested that she go on medication, and that was that. Well, however, when she had me and then my sister, all of the hormones and everything really kicked up, and so those symptoms got really bad. She had a lot of brain fog and just a lot of fatigue and chronic pain and a lot of just trouble focusing and managing day-to-day life. And that impacted me and my sister and how we were brought up. And this is really, really sad to me, because now that I've done all of this research, all of this work on myself and helping others, and I'm like, wow, so the problem also was an autoimmune condition for her that was not managed well. She was actually a pescatarian and didn't really eat that much fish because we didn't have a lot of money and it was really expensive. So a lot of the things that she was eating were more grains and soy and processed food, and she tried to do the best she could with the healthier lifestyle. However, a lot of the things that we've been taught that are healthy really aren't that healthy, and especially back when I was growing up. She was later diagnosed with fibromyalgia, which is just like this catch-all diagnosis for chronic pain. And she didn't really find a lot of relief until she started exercising a couple times a week. She actually joined Curves, and it really helped her to get in balance with the remainder of her life, because she did pass a few years ago. And I share this story because this is a generational problem that's happening, and as a product of this, I am really passionate about the information that I'm sharing and spreading in my practice, on this channel, in real life. This is just what I'm absolutely all about, because I want to see this pattern stop. I don't want to pass this on to my kids, and I want to help other people to educate themselves and make informed decisions so they can live full and happy, successful lives, and so their children can too. This is just really near and dear to my heart. All right, well, welcome to the show. I really appreciate you joining us this morning. I'm Jessica Disbrow. I'm a licensed social worker and registered psychotherapist in the state of Colorado. I'm also the founder and primary therapist of Higher Consciousness Healing. We offer community building, free online education, individual and group therapy services, and we also specialize with working with the millennial generation. If you want more information about our practice, check us out on the web at www.higherconsciousnesshealing.org. Right now you're watching our live video blog that we air every Saturday at 10 a.m. Mountain Time, where we talk about different mental health topics from a spiritual and scientific perspective. So welcome to the show. I'm really glad you're here watching with me. So last week we talked about how our gut health is really our mental health in a huge way, a really, really big way. And I kind of set up the foundation for today's talk last week. So if you haven't gotten a chance to check it out, definitely check it out. Today we're going to be talking about considerations for a healthy and happy and fulfilling life. Ways to improve yourself and your well-being. Now, a little bit of a disclaimer. So if you are having mental health or brain issues, please seek professional help. Please, please, please. This channel and show is not a substitute. This is not therapeutic advice. This is just information so you can be more informed and make the decision that's right for you. I really encourage everyone to get the help that they really need and reach out to mental health and physical wellness practitioners. Please do that. And also, if you're curious, there is a full disclaimer up in all of my videos, so make sure you read that too. I do feel that it is my ethical duty as a social worker to talk about the physical and where that's causing us a lot of problems. Because if we don't address the physical first, and we're just addressing the mental and emotional, but the physical is the root cause of it, like, this is why people spend years in therapy. This is why. Because it's not actually solving the root problem of a lot of these conditions, such as depression and anxiety. These might be remedied for you by different diet and lifestyle changes. So let's get into what some of those are. So first I'm going to talk about diet. And I really want to stress that I'm all about having a harm reduction approach, and that when you listen to all of these things and you've been consuming the standard American diet, you might be like, wow, those are a lot of things. And then I'm going to talk about exercise and sleep and relationships and some other considerations. And it's going to be like, wow, so I have to make all of these changes in my life? Like, that sounds a lot. So taking a harm reduction approach by doing one thing at a time and kind of seeing where you can make some of these changes yourself, I think is a really great way. Some people want to jump on board and do all of the changes all at once. I was one of those people, and it really did wonders for me. However, some people aren't ready to do that. So figure out where you stand in all of this. And this is especially true for people who are really addicted to sugar, because I'm going to talk about sugar. You can go through withdrawal and detox just as if you were addicted to other really harmful drugs and substances. So be mindful of that. If you do go cold turkey on a lot of these different food products, be mindful of that. And that's, again, why I think we should have professionals guiding us through this process. So some of the worst offenders: gluten, corn, soy, dairy, and sugar. These are the ones that give people the most problems. So if you can cut out one or all of these, I think that would be a really, really big start. I'd also recommend for you all to consider the paleo diet or the Whole30. And it's really not a diet, it's more of a lifestyle change, because this is not something that you go on for a little while and then you go off. These are ways that we can really harness our evolution based on what we've been evolved to eat. So things like meat, fish, vegetables, fruit, nuts, all those good things. And really, you should be eating mostly plants. Just really want to stress that. Mostly plants. And they also recommend, taking things like potatoes and legumes out of your diet along with grains. And the idea behind this is that we haven't really evolved that much physically in the last 10,000 years, and that's how long we've been doing agriculture. So a lot of these grains and dairy products, they're a creation of agriculture, and we're not really designed to eat them. And some people have more sensitivities to some of these than others. So I really want to stress that every body is different. But taking a restriction diet approach might be a good idea. So going really strict on the Whole30 diet for 30 to 60 days, and then adding certain things back in, one at a time. So for me, I've actually added rice back into my diet, and that seems to be okay for me on like a half cup to a cup basis. I don't eat more than that. And then I've also added oats. So that's been helpful, but trying to find oatmeal that is not processed in a facility that processes gluten has been challenging. So different things to consider for different people. We all have different sensitivities, and every body is really different. If you can afford it, buying local, organic, ethical products, especially when it comes to meat and fish. Having grass-fed beef and other meats are really great. The more humanely raised, the better, in my opinion. Having wild-caught fish, that does run into a little bit of an ethical thing when you're talking about these big fishing industries and how they're kind of doing a lot of damage to our oceans. So maybe thinking maybe I'll do fresh caught fish or something that's really local, and being mindful of the toxins that could be in the lake that you're fishing in. That kind of thing is just really important. So making the decisions that are best for you is really key. And eating real food, not food-like substances. That's important. Another thing, and I put this under diet because I do think that it's something that we're consuming, is our water. If you can have access to spring water, that's amazing. Definitely do that, because our tap water is showing up to have a lot of really nasty things in it that we probably don't want to be putting in our bodies. For instance, a lot of people flush their pharmaceutical pills down the drain, and that gets into our tap water, along with a lot of other things. The Broken Brain documentary series that I mentioned last week, there's a doctor in it who said that about 10% of our tap water has arsenic in it. Like, that's not good. So if you can drink spring water, that's ideal. If you can get a filtered water source, preferably at the grocery store, you can bring your 5-gallon jug, and they usually sell filtered water or reverse osmosis water for like 25 cents a gallon. You can do that. So those are some dietary considerations. And next I want to talk about exercise. Because exercise, when you think about it, if we're thinking about how we evolved and what we were evolved doing, we were hunting and gathering and running from danger a lot. Well, hopefully not that much. So doing some kind of cardio activity 2 to 3 times a week, just for 20 or 30 minutes. Like, it doesn't have to be insane. You don't need to run your butt off, just get your heart pumping, can really do wonders. There's a few reasons for this. It really combats the fight or flight response. So as I was saying, we're fighting and fleeing from danger. Well, what's happening for a lot of people is we're getting really anxious about various things in our life. And it's getting all stuck up in our head, and we're thinking about it and ruminating on it, and it's causing our body a lot of stress. So when we run and we do that cardio activity, we're actually releasing a lot of those chemicals, and we're actually able to balance our hormones out and have that anxiety really reduce, which is amazing. Another thing that it does is it really kicks up our serotonin and dopamine responses, which makes us happy. So you want to be happy? Maybe do some cardio a few times a week. That would be a consideration. Weightlifting is also really great. Building that muscle does wonders. Again, don't push any of these to the limit. Like, know where you stand and what's capable for your body. And especially if you have past injuries, a major consideration. Yoga and other forms of body awareness techniques, even just stretching, can be really, really helpful to, again, curb some of that anxiety, increase that mindfulness. And it's really great if you can't do cardio, like maybe you have some injured knees, whatever the case may be, at least trying to get some of that yoga in is great. Next thing I want to talk about is sleep. Getting 8 hours of sleep. Yes, 8 hours. I know some people are like, well, maybe 7 to 8 is okay. No. According to scientist and sleep expert Matthew Walker, who was on NPR's Fresh Air, he did an episode called Why We Sleep. 8 hours is a must. We really need 8 hours. He can actually tell when people have had less than 8 hours because we're doing all of these things that are really apparent to other people, and especially an expert like Matthew Walker. but we think we're doing better than we actually are. And that's the catch, people. If you're sleep deprived and you're running on less than 8 hours of sleep, you think you're doing better than you actually are. And the bigger problem is that we're in a really sleep deprived culture, and most people are sleep deprived, so we're all kind of walking around in a fog and not knowing that that's what's going on and interacting with each other, and things are getting messed up, especially in like the workplace. So some things that might be good to consider around that is reducing your screen time at night, like not using any kind of screens. That includes television, your cell phones, computer screens, because the blue light that's being emitted is messing up our melatonin production, which is something that helps us sleep. It's one of the naturally occurring things that occurs in our body. So think about maybe the light bulbs in your house. Switching those to light bulbs that don't have any blue light in them can be really helpful, and use them after dark. So for me, I actually have one in my bedroom. So after dark, that's one of the only lights that I see, and it's really helped me with that insomnia and getting to sleep. Glasses, the blue light blocking glasses for when you are using your computer and are using the other screens is great. There's also now filters that you can get put on your phone, different apps that you can download to help reduce that blue light too. So if you have to use your phone, definitely take that into consideration. And I actually just have mine on all the time. I don't even notice it anymore. Everything's tinted a little yellow, but I really don't mind. Another consideration is when the sun is coming up and you're first getting up in the morning, and I'm not telling you to look directly at the sun, so people don't look directly at the sun, but it's really helpful to kind of don't look directly at the sun, but look kind of around the sun and really get that fresh, new morning light into your eyes, because what that is actually doing is it's going to kick up that melatonin response when you go to sleep. And so because we're indoors and we're not living like the other animals, we're not being awoken by the sun. So it's really important that if you can, when you rise, take a look outside and kind of get your face in the sun and kind of just look around. That will be really helpful. And it's really stimulating to help you wake up. One last thing about the sleep is sleeping at the same time every night is really key. Going to bed when it's dark, waking up when the sun comes up. A supernatural, awesome thing for all of us to be doing. And again, it goes back to how we were evolved. Next consideration is quality relationships and connections. So isolation is just really bad. It's pretty toxic for us because we're really tribal animals and we really need each other. So having safe, supportive people in our lives is amazing. And I've talked about what to do if you don't have that community already in some of my other episodes around loving ourselves and making those conscious relationships. I'm going to do an episode in the future around how to maintain good boundaries with people who are negative and toxic. It's really key. And you can think about Maslow's hierarchy of need again, that pyramid, and love and belonging is smack in the middle. So it's like the third thing that we really need to reach full self-actualization. So treat yourself well and ask others to also. A few other considerations is reducing caffeine, alcohol, and other substances. Now, whether you need to do that with a professional or not is up to you, but really do think about those as a consideration. There's a lot of research coming out that these different things are pretty bad for us. And caffeine can really mess up our cortisol and adrenal responses. So really reducing those things is an awesome consideration. Supplements is another really great consideration. I'm not going to go into this too much because I want you to do your own research and work with a medical professional, not me. This is not my area, but it's a consideration. Supplements. Another thing that would be really helpful, as we talked about last week in the Broken Brain documentary series, they did mention plastic as being pretty toxic for us. And even the BPA plastic, they're finding BPA-free plastic, they're finding problems with the substitutes as well. So if we can avoid plastic as much as possible, not storing our food in plastic, not buying things wrapped in plastic, that kind of stuff, that would also really help. Another consideration is if you have the old school fillings, the silver fillings in your mouth, those have mercury in them, and they are also adding to your toxic load. So finding a dentist who can remove those well, and somebody who really knows what they're doing, because some dentists will just drill them out, and then you're inhaling and ingesting all of that mercury as they're trying to take it out. So find a dentist in your area who can do that appropriately with a big suction thing to your face. So you're not just inhaling and ingesting that mercury while they're doing that. That's definitely another consideration, because mercury poisoning is really bad for us and the brain. All right, that wraps up all of my considerations, and I'm sure there's a few more hanging around that I haven't put down. But I think these are the big ones, and from my research with several different sources, this is kind of what's come up, and for my own personal life and healing. I do want to mention that you all may be having some resistance around these different topics, especially when it comes to diet. That's so personal and so ethical, and a lot of us are addicted to the food that we're eating. It's what's bringing us comfort. So there's going to be a lot of resistance that comes up, so expect that. I really would recommend checking out my episode number 14 on the stages of change to help get us prepared for making some of these changes. That's really key. And next week, I'm going to be talking about more on unconscious resistance, because a lot of the resistance that we're having, we're doing it unconsciously, so we don't even know that we're doing it. Right? Let's build some awareness around unconscious resistance next week. Thank you so much for watching the show. If you have any questions or comments, now would definitely be the time to ask. If you are in the local community, just as a reminder, this is what I do as a professional, as I help people through these different changes for their body, their emotions, their mind, their social things, all of that jazz, so we can help people get into a place where they're fully actualized, they're reaching different forms of spiritual enlightenment, and they can really be amazing people in the world for themselves and their communities. So if you're in the local area, Denver, Colorado, definitely feel free to give me a call. I offer free 30-minute phone consultations to find out, is my program and approach right for you? And if it's not, I'll help you find somebody in the area who is a better match. So definitely don't hesitate to give me a call. I swear I'm a really friendly and nice person. I know that phone calls can be really anxiety-provoking for people. However, it is the most confidential way to reach me, so I'd recommend that. All right, I don't see any questions, so I'm going to wrap up today's show. Thank you so much for watching. I hope everyone takes care.